Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneider, joined as always my co-host Nick Filato, and football is officially back. Eagles, Cowboys, Eagles 24, Cowboys 20. Nick, with the Cowboys on deck next for the Giants, this is not in the future, but they are technically the week 2 team. I guess that's on deck. Yeah, it's like the on deck box. What is the thing that had you most nervous watching this game about our week 2 matchup against the Cowboys?
Geez, Dak Prescott, man, surgical. He was surgical, and he finished with less than 200 yards passing. So people look at the stats, be like, Dak sucks. He's in a hostile environment. He's getting spit at to open the game, and he is putting dimes on CeeDee Lamb, who is just dropping the football on that deep post, on that cross, on third down. I felt like Dak Prescott looked like vintage Dak Prescott. I mean, you know, this podcast, we're big Dak Prescott fans on tape on the All 22. I think he's a very underrated quarterback, and he proved that against the Philadelphia Eagles, but it still wasn't enough to get over that hump and defeat the Eagles.
That's kind of my exact takeaway, too. Now, I want to preface this by saying they're a totally different team, the Eagles, on defense without Jalen Carter. And
yes, especially when they game plan with having Jalen Carter, right? And then Jalen Carter does a hawk Tua, and next thing you know, out of the game. Spitgate, by the way, Dak spit at him initially. Everyone's saying, oh, geez, even though it wasn't on him, it was just in that general direction. Oh, the NFL just with the drama. It can never cease, Dan. It can never cease.
I can't even tell you how angry I plan to and know I will be when the Giants get called where they're taunting on a key drive and we're forced with like a 15-yard penalty. It's like 3rd and 8 stop. Giants make the stop, and then it's like Abdul Carter taunting somehow just because he celebrates a play. I mean, what are we doing here? I know you're not supposed to celebrate at the player, I guess, but like just let him. Sometimes you just have, when you're playing sports, like the other day, I can't believe I'm bringing this up. I said no more golf. But when I made that birdie on 18, my friend was like, dude, you did the fist pump. You know what? Sometimes you need an outburst of emotion when you do something good in sports, and you can't control it at all times.
100%. You know, the NFL is attempting to curtail this heavily. Now, with that said, throw back to the superlatives episode. If you have not listened to it, go down the feed and find it. Dan, who is the first player who is going to cause the New York Giants to have a drive extended or a drive killed because of a taunting penalty?
I feel like it's Kayvon Thibodeau. But
you think Kayvon? That's a good guess. I think Kayvon's a good guess.
Neighbors, maybe. I don't know. But the point being, it's the NFL is just, nobody is going to be like offended watching that. The kids, think about the kids. Like, what? The kids had to see some guy like somewhat he wasn't even in his face. He just celebrated at the guy. The kids are fine. The viewers are fine. But I am definitely nervous about this Cowboys offense, because while the point I was going to make was that Jalen Carter next to Dexter Lawrence, I think, is the biggest impact defender in the entire National Football League. And if you disagree with that, go rewatch the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. He was the best player on the field, in my opinion, on either side of the ball. I think he proved that. And so I don't want to take that for granted. But man, like you said, Dak Prescott, surgical with the football, anticipation, ball placement. That posted CeeDee at the end of the game. It's one of the best placed balls we'll see all week, I think, from any quarterback. And he had a few others. I mean, he tries some crazy shit, dude. Like some of those Ferguson passes. Ferguson, my boy from Wisconsin, taking massive hits for the team. Like he's just hanging them out to dry on multiple occasions.
Fangio loves those split field coverages, and Dak Prescott loves to throw the seam. He loves to throw the seam. And if you're a tight end, you need to get that football and just be clicking A like crazy. If this is Madden or college football 20, click A like crazy and get down and protect yourself, because you're about to get cold clocked by Reed Blankenship.
And I'll say this, the offense did pretty much shut down after that lightning delay. I think it's a good nod to what I've heard from coaches and a lot of different people who've played in the NFL. There's no such thing as a halftime adjustment, they say, even though it's like a cliche thing we know in sports, because you only have like 15 minutes. When you have an hour, a full hour to just watch what the offense is doing, look at what happened, dude. Both sides of the ball got completely shut down. Now, for the Eagles, Dickerson went out. That was part of it for sure. And the Eagles are a little beat up on the offensive line. The Eagles are weirdly not deep or impressive in the secondary outside of Kenyon Mitchell at the corner position, because Adoree Jackson looked cooked in this game. And there was one play circulating where he just didn't make any effort on a run play. That's a good thing for the Giants for sure. But man, offensively, I feel like when we play the Cowboys in week 2, it's going to be just like every offensive possession for the Giants, they're going to have to score, or at least push to score.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for sure. The The Cowboys offensive line, I felt like Brian Schottenheimer designed a lot of really creative run plays,
Yeah.
some out of shotgun, some under center to get Javonte Williams going. Javonte Williams scored those first early 2 touchdowns. I thought he looked fine. You know, he jumped out to the first 2 touchdowns, like fine for what he is, better than Miles Sanders. But the
Miles
rushing,
Sanders not outrunning Zach Bond was one of the saddest things I've ever
Zach
seen.
Bond is a freak athlete. I'll
He's
give him that.
a good athlete, dude. Zach Bond is not that fast. I've watched Zach Bond for the last 8 years. He's not that athlete. You should be able to house that.
100%. Miles Sanders at this point of his career, though, even though I think he's still in his 20s. Like, the thing about Miles Sanders was the running back to take over after Saquon Barkley left Penn State.
Yeah.
And look at those two right now.
Yeah.
But also, Saquon looked phenomenal too. In this
Saquon
game.
always, Saquon's awesome. Like you could see just some of the Saquon behind this offensive line. He's so much more patient. I feel like he just understands like the best way to tempo these runs because he trusts it. He trusts this line to get there. And I will say this in the credit Miles Sanders a little bit. It was a nice patient run. It just wasn't good breakaway speed, but I thought he did a good job letting the blocks develop and then making that cutback when he needed to. Saquon had one of those too. Hurts had multiple amazing runs where he hit the cutback or just planted his foot, went vertical.
Like Matt Eberflus, what are we doing with some of these plays, man? These 3rd and short situations. I get you want to play too high, but when you play too high and you have Jalen Hurts as a quarterback, you need to account for that, and it's tough. I'll say this though about both, like Eberflus, that's definitely a knock on him, but he shut down the passing attack outside. But as we know with Nick Sirianni and this Eagles offense, they can find a million different ways to beat you, as the Giants have found out, unfortunately, over the years. And now with Saquon Barkley, that's it's even more evident. I'll say that a lot of the young players on both teams, from a Giants perspective, were a little bit concerning, like the Marshawn Nealons of the world and the Jalen Hunts of the world, and players like that who are just making plays behind and around the line of scrimmage. One player, though, Donovan Ezeraku, had a massive welcome to the NFL moment, and it's going around. It's going around Twitter right now. Like, oh, it's definitely holding. It's like, dude. His hands were fit so tight inside, and you could tell Ezeraku. And he have a grip, but it's everything is tight, everything is inward, right?
They'll never call that.
Ezeraku is trying to get off that, and it's just like Mailata has such firm control of Ezeraku. It's just like, damn, welcome to the NFL. Kid.
Such good body control too, Mailata. It's unbelievable that a player his size can move the way that he does and have control of his body the way he does. But he's one of the premier left tackles in the NFL. Unfortunately, like Thomas, when fully healthy, is a better player in my opinion than Mailata. Though I can understand the case for both because Mailata probably offers them more in the run game. But right now, he's the healthy one of those two. But another thing, what was I going to say? I just blanked on something I was going to say about. Oh, I think that ultimately when the Giants do play the Cowboys, Nick, we're going to see a little bit more than what was unleashed tonight. Now, sometimes when you play the Eagles, you have limited possessions. The Eagles are just grinding play clocks down, these long drives. One drive was a full quarter. And trust me, I know because I was tilting. I had a lot of fantasy implications. These long, slow drives ending in Javonte Williams touchdowns were not making me happy, Nick. But point being, when they did attack, it was kind of just like, all right, if you're going to give me a one-on-one on the outside with George Pickens, I am going to attack that. And the only thing you can probably do is interfere with the receiver. There were a lot of interference calls on the Eagles tonight, and they were all valid calls. They got burned by one of these two guys, Pickens and Lamb, and all they could do was kind of pass interfere. I've a bad feeling that's how it's going to look for us in Dallas next week from a defensive standpoint.
I agree. And look, Dallas has a whole week now to rest up for the New York Giants. And the Giants, like Paulson Adebo, I think he's a good cornerback. He grabs. He's a grabber, Paulson Adebo. And that's the cornerback that we're not that worried about.
I don't even know who should match up against Pickens either. Like,
who would you prefer, Cordell Flott or Tay Banks? Like,
I want a Debo on Pickens and then just like cloud over Lamb. We have to allocate a lot of resources to these two, and then Ferguson will just beat us. We're not stopping this offense a lot, I don't think.
And again, it's not like Javonte Williams strikes fear into us as New York Giant fans, but that offensive line does, and that rushing attack does, especially if you want to align in too high. So the Giants are going to be challenged in week 2, but let's get through week 1 first before we really hyper focus on that. But I like the fact that we got to see our week 2 opponent already.
Yeah.
In this Thursday night game. And it just sucks that I was impressed with what I saw. I thought they would be a little bit more of a dumpster fire with all of the turmoil surrounding, but that's what Dak Prescott and a good quarterback can do, especially a veteran one like Dak. He can significantly stabilize the situation in a hostile environment. And it did help that Jalen Carter got bounced from the game because easily the offensive coordinator of the offensive coaching staff of Dallas, Schottenheimer, all of them. They were like, yeah, Jalen Carter's the number one guy we're worried about defensively for the
Right.
Eagles. And he gets kicked out before an offensive play even takes place.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, the narrative was that the Cowboys might be a dumpster fire. They're obviously 8.5-point dogs. But I think you and I, having studied this game for as long as we have, understand the reality that if you have a quarterback like Dak Prescott and an offensive line like the Cowboys, and they've continued to build that infrastructure with first-round pick at first round, it's not like Giants first-round picks the past that aren't good. They they draft them, develop them. They're right a lot on these offensive linemen. Yeah, you're just going to never be a dumpster fire. That's the game. The game is trench play and quarterback, especially offensively. And when you have that, you're never going to be a dumpster fire.
And when you think of their offense too, it's like they have an upgrade of, like, not to compare the Cowboys and the Giants right now, but quarterback they have, offensive line they have, skill position players they have. CD over Malik Neighbors. If you want to make that argument, Malik over CD, that's fine. Then you have George Pickens.
I mean, I would, but not based on tonight. I'm making a joke. Tonight he dropped passes. That's just it. Malik
of course. Like, I think Malik Neighbors is certainly in that conversation.
I just think he's better than Lamb. Yeah.
Yeah. But then behind that, it's like the thing is, like, George Pickens is so much better than what the Giants have.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think the Giants might be a little bit deep. That's where you can really have, it's like Jalen Tolbert.
We have running backs with talent, at least.
Yeah, exactly. And then Turpin and Jalen Tolbert or Wan'Dale Robinson and throw whoever, Jalen Hyatt, I guess it would be. Sure. Hopefully Theo Johnson can be something more than Jake Ferguson, but I have a lot of respect for what Jake Ferguson can do as a receiver. And we love his blocking out of Wisconsin. I don't think he's utilized in that manner as much in the NFL, especially since they got Braden Spanford, the kid they drafted in like the 7th round out of Minnesota 2 years ago. And he's like a 270, 280 pound tight end who could really block. He had a target in this game too. But yeah, anyways, but I know I went on a little tangent there, but I'm a little afraid of Dallas Cowboys after that.
Of their offense, their defense, I'm not sure. I mean, they had nice stops in the end of that game, but I think it was partly, like I said, Dickerson's injury. B, just that hour long you had to kind of just watch what like a tape. It's kind of just bullshit, but it is what it is. It's like exactly you had
just full corner blitzes, man. 2 corner blitzes.
Yeah, they started sending corner blitzes, which work. It just hurts, man. Like, I have a lot of respect for Hurts. That dime he threw to Dotson was really nice. But, like, he's also, I mean, he's not the greatest pocket. I don't find him to be the greatest pocket passer. And I think you can sometimes have these game plans that work against him and at least for portions of the game slow him down, especially if Dickerson is out. Like, when Dickerson went out, that changed everything. I felt like for that. Everything felt worse for the Eagles at that point, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens with Dallas at least. I'll say this. Their offensive line impressed me. And that was supposed to be a potential setback for them. Pickens impressed me, despite obviously not getting that many targets. Lamb, I mean, Dallas should have won this game, dude. If Lamb doesn't have those 2 horrific drops and Miles Sanders doesn't fumble the football, Dallas wins this game.
Yeah, and that's my main takeaway, I think, from this is that there are some issues with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are. Now, a lot of this is it could be contingent offensively on Landon Dickerson's injury. We don't really know. I'm not going to speculate that he's severely injured at this point, but defensively, I don't think they're going to be this top defense this year like they were last year if they can't rectify this cornerback position. Like, you have Cooper DeJean and Kenyon Mitchell back there. That's fine. Who's playing that other? They have a similar issue that the New York Giants have right now. Right. Like, who's the other corner? I would take Deontay Banks and Cordell Flott 10 times out of 10 over Adoree Jackson. And I don't know what's going on with Keely Ringo if he can't find the football field. So, but yeah, that could be a problem for them that crops up.
I hope you're right. I just wonder how much of that is different when Jalen Carter's just absolutely wrecking the offensive line like he was in that Chiefs game.
And their 2 rookies look good too. Jahad Campbell, and then the kid they drafted out of Texas, the safety.
Campbell will be a player for them for sure. And the kid I love, Magbuka, what was it? Magbuka? I forgot how to pronounce his name.
Makuba, I think.
Makuba. Yeah. That kid was flying around the field at Texas, and I'm sure that'll be the same for Eagles. I think more than likely it's a Fangio defense. It'll come around, especially when Carter's on the field. I also kind of feel like, you know what you said, like the way you broke down your interpretation of this game, Nick, reminded me a lot of how people talked about the Chiefs last year, and they ended up just winning like almost every regular season game. I think the Eagles just can cakewalk through some of these games, man. Like, not take it all. It's not that they're not taking it seriously, but they just grind possessions down, control the clock the whole time. Never really looked to me like they're panicked at any point. They just are like, we can just do it at any point. It almost felt like, for me at least. Tonight, less so, because they started to slow down on offense a little, but it just reminds me a lot of the Chiefs from last year. I think they'll just win a lot of games like this.
They slowed down a lot on offense, but at the same time,
Yeah.
man, we didn't even see their passing attack to their wide receivers.
Dude, I don't think they completed a pass more than 8 yards, the Eagles, and won a football game. That's insane.
Well,
right?
they had the Jahan Dotson.
Besides that one Dotson throw, I don't think they had one pass above 8 yards.
But yeah, I mean, AJ Brown had one catch, and that was on their final drive, right?
All of Smith's catches were short. All of Goddard's were short.
I haven't seen the all 22, but there were a few plays where I was deliberately, once I realized like AJ Brown isn't even getting looked at right now. Let me see what's going on with him. I started like looking, and I would see Hurts turn to AJ Brown's side and then just come off it right away, which tells me that there was a safety coming right down with a corner and outside leverage, and they were just bracketing AJ Brown. So basically suffocating AJ Brown, not allowing AJ Brown to get any oxygen, any targets at all.
Should be able to get Devontae Smith going then. It's just odd.
But they didn't even really need to. Their offense was
no, they don't need to, right? Yeah,
with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts using his legs, and a lot of this is, but the Eberflus defense. So this is something that we can look at for week 2. It's a lot of cover too, man. It's a lot of too high. It's a lot of zone coverage. That's what it was with the Colts. That's what it was last year with the Chicago Bears, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't looked at those numbers, but if you're going to play like that, this is why I'm interested to see how they play the Giants and what Russell Wilson can do in week 1 against Washington that may entice Eberflus to lean on those tendencies a little bit. And could that open up anything on the ground for the Giants in the run game?
Yeah. Hopefully it does open up the run game for the Giants, because I think we saw a few great flashes with Tyrone Tracy this preseason, really 2 great flashes, but on limited opportunities. I feel like it was a pretty good success rate. I'm very hopeful for Tracy this year. I think he would, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think he could surprise some Giants fans just in how effective he is, how explosive he is, and how quickly he might become like a key offensive player that we're talking about week after week as a difference maker for the Giants. But it's almost here, man. This was the first game. It was fun. Now it's like Friday night. We wake up Friday. We go through our day, Saturday, and it's just Giants football. Giants football's on the way, Nick. But you know what? Had a long week, a great week. We've done a recap of this game, a preview of the coming Giants Commanders game. But look, I think we've talked about Andrew Thomas missing practice today. He was at practice. I think we missed probably the biggest news of the week, though, which is crazy for the Giants. I don't know if you saw it, but no, it's not. It's not Andrew Thomas' his practice report. I don't think it's not Theo Johnson. Actually, it's Pat Leonard from the Daily News. Breaking news, I think. Yeah, breaking news from Pat Leonard from the Daily News. Pat says, why are the Giants preventing Jackson Dart and Jameis Winston from talking football with the media this week and violating the NFL's media policy? A strange and unexpected development in New Jersey with the QBs behind Russell Wilson. How did we not report on this news, Nick? Are we idiots? Are we bad fans? Are we bad analysts? What is wrong with us? Because this is a quote unquote strange and unexpected development. I mean, it can't possibly be that the Giants released an unofficial depth chart and had Dart 2 and Winston 3, and Dable doesn't want to create any drama or care about this at all because it's literally meaningless in an unofficial depth chart. No, it can't be that. That's way too obvious of an answer. Let's put our glasses on. Let's put our spy glasses on, Nick, and try to uncover this really just, I can't even figure out what this could possibly be. It's strange and unexpected, though. That's for sure. It's strange and unexpected. So I don't know if you have any answers here, Nick, but I don't know what to say, man. This is a big breaking story.
I'm gonna have Russell Wilson weigh in on this. All right.
Okay. Diarrhea poop.
Yeah, that's Russell Wilson's voice.
Yeah. What did you say, Russ?
Diarrhea poop.
Wow. That's what Russell Wilson thinks of.
Nothing
right
like
now.
Russell Wilson.
Yes.
That was a worse Russell Wilson impression than I think you or I could have done.
That's really Russell Wilson.
Way.
Yeah.
There's no way. From when?
Yeah. He likes to go live on. This is from back in his day, Denver or whatever. He was talking about something. I think one of his dogs might have went number 2, and he was talking about the diarrhea poop. So he went on that. So that's what I think. That's where I will leave it right now. I'm not worried about that, but you understand, some people have.
I'll be thinking about it all weekend, man. Yeah. I'll be thinking about it all weekend long. How could the Giants violate the NFL's media policy? Why? Why, Brian Dable? Why would you not let them speak? Why? We want to hear. We need to hear from them. It's strange. It's unexpected, Nick. But as we worry about Andrew Thomas, who cares if Andrew Thomas plays in this game? Are you kidding me? We just need to make sure we hear from that second and third quarterback before the game. And I'll be tracking that all weekend. So for those of you, we probably won't record again before the game, but just check my Twitter. I'll have updates on that. If we hear from Dart or Jameis, and maybe I'll get boots on the ground here, Nick. I'll try to get a quote from either of them. I'll be the one. So just look out for me. Pat, you can reach out to me. I'll let you know when I hear from them. But yeah, Nick, very excited for this weekend's game. It's gonna be great, man. Hopefully the Giants.
What was that? Tom Coughlin?
They can kiss my ass.
Yes, they can kiss my ass. You know what? If Jameis Winston and Jackson Dart wanted to kiss the ass of one of these reporters and give them these stupid freaking quotes that nobody cares to hear, none of us give a shit about, they can go do that. And if they don't, I certainly won't think it's strange and unexpected. And we'll end it there. I don't know why I went with that little Tom Coughlin rant, but believe. That's my Tom Coughlin. I used to love when I go to Giant games. My brother and I have a big memory of that. They would play it on the board before the games, and it was just a quick quote of Coughlin. Believe. It's the best. It's literally the best Giants quote. So we'll end it there.
Motivation.
We'll believe we can beat the Washington Commanders. Believe we can upset this team. It's possible. The Giants could be a much better team than we're expecting, than anyone's expecting. It'll be so cool if it happens. So we'll talk to you Sunday night right after the game, or actually right after Sunday Night Football. And here's our interview with Jamual Forrest.
Labor Day weekend always sneaks up on me. It's the unofficial end of summer, and for me, that means grilling. I love one last big cookout before football and tailgating season take over. And right now, Omaha Steaks sent me a box to try, and I've been enjoying it. They hooked me up with a variety of steaks, their filet mignon burgers, gourmet jumbo franks, boneless pork chops, air-chilled boneless chicken, and even caramel apple tartlets that just melt in your mouth. Delectable, delicious, and divine. The quality is unreal. Every steak is perfectly aged. The burgers are juicy. The franks are legit deli style. And those tartlets, dangerous. And the best part is the convenience. I can pull something out of the freezer and know it's going to be great without making a run to the store. Right now, Omaha Steaks is running their Labor Day sale. 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. And our listeners get an extra $35 off with promo code BANTER at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com plus an extra $35 off with promo code BANTER. See site for details. And again, massive thanks to Omaha Steaks for sponsoring the podcast and also sending me that amazing box of meat.
Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneier, joined as always my co-host Nick Filato, and we are joined today by a special guest, Jamual from Trap or Dive podcast, Hogs Haven. It's game week. It's the Commanders. I almost did it again. I have such a problem with calling them the Redskins, but I don't know if that'll ever change in my life. The Commanders and Giants in Washington. We are really excited. Last year, we did some game previews to start the year. The Giants became a pathetic mess, so we stopped doing them. But now the Giants actually might be a respectable team this year. So we're back to game previews, and we're excited to be joined by Jamual here. Jamual, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm good, fellas. I appreciate y'all having me. You know what's funny, though, Dan? Like, Redskins is never out of my vocabulary. Like it's all interchangeable. It's Washington Commanders. It's Redskins. Like it's all in the same boat.
Yep, I'll never change.
Maul, I want to get your perspective on the New York Giants before we dive into what's going on with Washington. What are the Commanders fans and people in Commander Nation? What are they thinking about this upcoming matchup with the New York Giants and this pass rush?
Yeah, it's actually a mixed bag. I think there's people who are skeptical. Like this is a new offensive line unit for Washington, right? And when you look at what the Giants have done defensively, more importantly, you mentioned the pass rush, like up front, it's like, you know, this is going to be one of the bigger tests of the season for Washington's new offensive line, and it happens to be week one, right? So like, there are plenty of people who are concerned that, this can be a closer game than people expect. The taste that people have in terms of the New York Giants last year is the fact that they had one of the worst records, and they weren't a really a good team. So like those are people's last impressions of New York. But like things change every year, and week one is always a little different. So skeptical in that sense. But then there's also some people who are like leaning into the idea that Washington is a really good team now. And like with Jaden Daniels, it's going to be hard for any team to just outright beat or dominate Washington because Jaden Daniels is the quarterback. And for obvious reasons, too, Washington did get better on both sides of the football, tons of collecting talent. So there's a group of people out there who are very much confident that Washington can take care and handle the Giants week one. But then there's the other side that's skeptical. So it really truly is a mixed bag here with Washington. There's a lot of people who have some respect for the Giants.
One player I wanted to get into to start, and maybe we can touch on a little bit deeper with the Washington offensive line. I thought, generally speaking, one of the biggest surprises from last season was how well the Washington offensive line played. And now as somebody who follows the team as closely as you do, Jamal, I am curious, was it more, in your opinion, just from evaluating the tape and evaluating the season as a whole, was it more the players and the personnel outperforming expectations, the scheme benefiting them on Cliff's end, or just strictly put how I kind of saw it, Jaden Daniels' effect and the way that he plays the game, making the offensive line play look better?
Well, Jaden definitely made the offensive line look much better. I mean, his escapability, right? His vision in the pocket, like just understanding quickly, like when he can take off, when there's a void or a breakdown in the pass rush, right? The pass rush discipline. Like he made things 10 times easier for that offensive line. Like, there's even a clip against the Atlanta Falcons where, they're mic'd up and the center, Dieter, comes to him after I think Zach Ertz scores the winning touchdown right in overtime. And he comes to him and says, "Thanks for making me right." Like in whichever fashion that is, whether it's the wrong protection call or he actually when he did something wrong individually, like those are the things that Jaden Daniels can overcome, right? But you look at Brandon Coleman, he was playing left tackle last year. He ends up going to left guard now because of the addition of Laramie Tunsil, right? But Brandon Coleman seemed like he had his good days, but you kind of see what happens when he's exposed on that island, that left tackle island, and the type of pass rusher that you face out there. And given that he played guard in college, there's an idea that playing him at his natural position, things can work out well. But who was at that left guard last year? Nick Allegretti. He was a backup for a long time with the Kansas City Chiefs, right?
Right.
And those are things like you look at certain individuals for that offensive line, and they held their own. Schematically, you never really saw last year. You never really saw Washington not go out and have a tight end or running back lined up next to your tackles because they always needed the chip help, right? And the idea is obviously it's not directly correlated, but if you get better tackle play, which the addition of Josh Connolly on your right side and Laramie Tunsil on your left, you get your versatility. You can bring some of these guys in towards the interior, i.e. Brandon Coleman, Sam Cosmi when he comes back. But who's going to be at that right guard spot? Maybe Nick, maybe Andrew Wiley. But you never saw them without chip help. And the idea of this year is like you can kind of get that versatility and not necessarily have to use your backs or your receivers or your tight ends and line to help your offensive line out. So it was schematic things that helped them out last year. And obviously, Jaden Daniels, they definitely needed to upgrade offensive line.
Maul, I have a quick question just about Terry McLaurin. I know he was late to joining camp. Is there any consternation? Is there any worry about Terry McLaurin just getting right back involved with Cliff Kingsbury and hitting the ground running now that the contract situation is resolved? But is there any worry just because he missed all of training camp, basically?
Not internally. I don't think they'll ever even acknowledge that. I mean, obviously, why would they even say it? But I think the natural concern when you miss that much time is going to be there. And I think there's plenty of people like, I mean, look at Brandon Ayuk last year, like generally speaking in the league, right? He came back after all of the things that all of the antics that he did in the offseason. Granted, nowhere near as like Terry, nowhere near as toxic or distracting as Brandon was last year. But all of the noise that he had last year, and you come back, you dropping 3 passes a game. You like all these opportunities that you on the field, and you're like, yo, what's going on with this newly paid wide receiver making 30 a year? Like, where are we putting our money at? And then he gets hurt too, right? So and he misses the entire season after a few games. Um, there's like a natural conversation about like, is he going to be ready week one? How's his health given that he missed the preseason and training camp practices? And I think those are valid questions. But if you know Terry the person, you kind of get an understanding like he always takes care of his body. And like that's no question about him. Like it's a big trait from his staff, his friends, his players, his teammates, excuse me, that knows that he takes care of his body really well. He never stops working. And then on top of that, like he's a younger 30. So it's not like he has like a wear and tear on his body compared to other 30-year-olds who've been in the league for like 10 seasons already, 9 seasons. So internally they'll tell you no big deal. But I think the natural skepticism of a person who misses that much time, given the history around the league, I think it does exist.
Interesting. I want to keep it on the offensive side of the ball for a few more minutes. There are a couple players I think could be key X factors in this game. And we know from just breaking down the tape of last year in the first matchup, the Giants had an interesting game plan to try and stop Kingsbury and Jane, it didn't really work. They played off coverage. And Kingsbury, I thought, did a great job of navigating and negating the Giants' pass rush. But there will be opportunities, I think, for Abdul Carter and Kayvon Thibodeau and possibly even Brian Burns lined up on the left edge. Now, we have Connerly there, a rookie whose tape I loved. I thought he could be eventually a great player in the NFL level, but I haven't followed or tracked his preseason or training camp. What's the buzz on Connerly? Are they just full go ready to rock with him? Has he had a great, steady drumbeat this entire offseason? Could he potentially be an impact right tackle right away?
Really good questions. I think when you look at Connerly, like there was an early buzz or the early conversation with Josh when we're talking about training camp, that was off to a slow start. And talking about, for those who are unfamiliar with Josh Connerly, he started at left tackle with Oregon, right? And that's kind of his natural position. So like they're trying him at right tackle for the obvious reason we mentioned Tonsu, and like they're trying to shape up that tackle spot, and it's going to take some time for him to really get things together. And as time went on in training camp, the joint practices when Washington and the beat reporters who was covering the team, they really saw that change in Connerly because it's all about like, now let me get on the field and get these live reps against other teams, other people, and stop thinking about exactly like my technique, my fundamentals, like trust myself in that aspect. But now let me just go have fun. And like there was a visible shift in how his perception or how he was perceived by people who were covering him, and obviously the coaching staff as well. So I think things have gotten better for him. But I also think, to answer your question directly about like even with the opportunities that your defensive linemen have, like there was like one or two exposures of line games, whether it was the Patriots or even the Bengals, where he did get a little confused on the twist games with your tackle and ends, and I think for Washington, that is an area of concern. I don't know how big it'll be internally, right? Because obviously the teaching never stops. But for a person who's going to be taking the live reps, and Connerly, who got the starting job based on their official/unofficial depth chart that came out Tuesday or Wednesday, he's going to get tested a lot, and like the speed and power that you all have up front, like that combination, especially with the ability to rush the passer, 4 different guys that I think is very much qualified. I think on the right side of the line is probably going to be Washington's like biggest, let's wait and see, but like biggest test for them, because if you can get that pressure on that right side, especially from a rookie, we may be in more trouble than we think.
I'm sure Shane Bowen will be dialing something up. One more question I have on the offensive side of the football, Jamal, and that is the running backs. What's going on with this running back situation now that Brian Robinson is out of town and you have Chris Rodriguez, Bill Krosky, Merritt, and Austin Eckler?
Yeah. Well, did the Brian Robinson trade surprise you all?
A
Like
little
did
bit,
that.
but I
Definitely
heard, I
surprised
heard,
me. I thought he was a good player on tape.
yeah, exactly. I didn't know exactly what happened. Do you have any insight on that?
Honestly, it was a contractual thing, like money wise, but also like if you think about it, like you got five running backs with B-Rob. You got five running backs. And one of the ones that went unmentioned was Jeremy McNichols. Excuse me. That would have been the fifth one, right? B-Rob is the only one who didn't play special teams. And like when you think about what you want to do for your roster, and how you want to like figure things out moving forward, uh, Bill is an explosive guy. Like he's their explosive player. Austin Eckler, like we all know the history with Austin, dating back to the Chargers, but you're talking about a person who is versatile from a pass catching standpoint, but also has the ability to really run the ball well. Um, and then Chris Rodriguez, he just happened to emerge, right? Like I don't think they had huge expectations of him this offseason, but they saw the emergence from like how he took care of his body, slimmed down, got faster, right? And conditioning was his biggest deterrent. And they saw how much better he got. So I think all of those factors just made Brian a little bit more expendable. And to really answer the question about the running back room, it is like to be seen. Like we have no idea over here how they're playing it.
Hmm.
You think about even Debo Samuel, right? His history is running the ball with San Francisco. How they get him carries, not necessarily just short out the backfield, but like he gets his touches on those jet sweeps and those
Right.
quick passes, right? And I think those are other areas where you have to consider Washington is going to add an element to their running game, knowing that Debo is just on the field. So I think those are your five guys. We're talking about including Debo. Those are your five guys: McNichols, Rodriguez, um, Bill Merritt, Austin Eckler, and then Debo. Where you're like, how can we use these guys on a given week? The biggest question though is, are they going to run with four on game day? Like typically teams don't even do that. And
Right.
like for us, I don't think it's a huge deal when it all comes down to it. Um, like you can probably try to figure out what you're going to do with your bottom two, which will probably be Bill and Chris Rodriguez. What are you going to do with those two on game day? But that's kind of the nature of where we are right now. It's crazy like how much better they got, but like this team is so different. Washington is now that like there's still question marks until they literally get on the field. Like you have no idea how certain things are going to play out until they start playing their games.
Yeah, it was interesting. Just watching the preseason game, I thought Washington did a lot of fun stuff in the run game. I'm very, very nervous about Washington's run game, regardless of who it is. I'm a huge Krosky Merritt fan. Nick put me onto him. His tape was really fun, and I didn't even, focus on it. And my other co-host on my fantasy pod was also a huge fan. So I think he could be a problem, but really it's scheme to me that scares me the most, what Kingsbury is able to do and the impact of Jaden. But I did want to talk about two more players on offense before we moved on. So I was actually a big fan of Luke McCaffrey last year. I thought that he did a good job of creating separation. At the same time, it almost feels like he's in some ways being phased out for a player who might better fit the scheme in Jalen Lane. What have you seen from those two players, and are those possible sleepers to kind of break open big plays against the Giants this weekend?
Jalen Lane for sure. I
Okay.
think what's really surprised people, because like I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I watched. Now, granted, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, it's not that easy to get college film out there, but
We
when you
know that. We know that one
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. So like when I tell you the tape that I did watch, I just watched that man running a straight line for like 1,000 plays when he's running his routes. I'm like, bro, like I'm cutting this off. Like it's nothing I could do with the tape that I have. So I'll just wait till he plays in the NFL.
Yeah.
But with that being said, what really surprised people is like his route running nuance as a rookie. It was impressive. I think that even Cliff Kingsbury in one of his early training camp pressers, he even acknowledged how impressed he was with what Lane brought to the table already. And I think you saw it most against the Cincinnati Bengals, the Monday night game, where he was able to have a variety of different routes on the first and second level. He didn't really go deep. And that actually probably makes sense for Washington, especially if you want to use him as a deep threat. Like let's not send him downfield just yet. Let's just see what he got on that first and second level. And the fact that he has good hands too, and like he's made like visible plays. Now, granted, this is preseason, It's your first look at a rookie. But when you think about him and the actual speed that he has and how he can threaten people in the actual phase of a route because of his speed, I think those are things for Washington that Cliff Kingsbury can game plan around. But for Luke McCaffrey, I agree with you, Dan. I think there was plenty of times last year where you saw the separation created. I think one of his biggest plays that frustrates me to this day because we lost to the goddamn Steelers was an over route that he ran from the slot,
Yeah.
and Jaden got slightly pressured, but he had enough time, and Luke McCaffrey had like 3 or 4 yards of separation over the middle, and Jaden overthrew him. That was a touchdown. That was like a 90-yard touchdown. Like if Luke really had the speed to maintain that distance, but like that was one of the bigger ones that he had an opportunity that he missed out on. There were some moments in preseason too where you could see Luke McCaffrey's third level speed. Like it was actually against the Cincinnati Bengals where he had a couple routes where he put some pressure on these DBs against off coverage too, which is good for him. But I think the biggest question with Luke is actually like how productive can you get with the opportunities that you have? And some people really do just make the plays. And granted, again, like he had some opportunities that weren't like his fault per se last year. They other circumstances, like you got a quarterback that gets you the ball. But at the same time, the productivity is really for Luke. Productivity is really something to be desired. Like at the end of the season, it was Terry and Luke. Those are your two receivers before they went to the offseason. It was just those two. They really have a lot counting on Luke. So we'll see. I think right now he's probably that wide receiver 4 behind Debo, Terry, and Noah Brown. And obviously Jalen Lane will be sprinkled in, but I think he's their real wide receiver 4. See how many opportunities he gets and he can take advantage of. But yeah, like I think him and Ben Sinnott, like the pressure is on those two because they have had really quiet rookie seasons, and that's a big deal.
Jamual, we want to be cognizant of your time, but we just got to briefly ask you about the defense. So what are your overall opinions on this defensive unit, strengths, weaknesses, where the Giants can successfully attack?
Well, I don't like how you phrased that question. How the Giants can successfully attack. That was clever. But you know what's crazy? The one thing I really love is their transformation in the secondary. You had Ben St. Juste, Emmanuel Forbes, Michael Davis and obviously Mike Sanders still, but he was a rookie. You had those 3 as your starting cornerbacks, and like the transformation that they did in one off season, going to Trey Amos, going to Marshawn Lattimore, and then having the ability to move Mike Sanders still back in the slot. And then obviously filling out with Noah Igbenogany and Jonathan Jones as your back end depth, your 5 cornerbacks. Like that's a strong position group. And I think for Washington, their ability to fix that part of their team first and foremost is big because I think the passing game or passing defense was already for me a strength last year, but they made it stronger. And I think as a unit, that's something that you can really stand your hat on. You just got to have somebody that can make plays. And I think Trey Amos and Mike Sanders still are those guys that can really make plays for you in that cornerback room in terms of getting your hand on the football. So I think that's a big deal. As much as I love or I like some of the additions on the defensive line, that overall front 7 to answer your question, it's probably like the place where you may want to like really exploit and test how much better do they get in the run game. You lose John Allen, pick up Ken Law, you pick up Von Miller, you pick up Dietrich Wise, who I love on the edge. Like you need certain people that can really play discipline along the edge. Like Dante Fowler, 10 sacks on the year, but I mean, in the grand scheme of it, like you can never negate 10 sacks. Like anybody who gets 10 sacks, congratulations. I'll never say a bad word about those 10. But at the same time, like, bro, like how impactful were you every single game? And like how impactful were you on both sides? Like I don't think he was really good against the run. And it's the main reason him and a couple other people that you needed some people who can really set their edge and play their gaps. So you get Javon Kinlaw, who's probably going to be like, I hope, who's probably going to be like your 5 tech, somebody who can play closer towards the edge, over top of the tackle sometimes, but outside of the tackle. And then Dietrich Wise, who is just somebody who can really play all 1 through 5, 1 through 7. But he's like super smart and super physical. I think those are some guys that can really, on paper, get things done. Obviously, Von Miller, I mean, pass rush specialist, that's simple. We know his role. But you really got to find a way to stop the run. And I think for New York, Tracy had, y'all help me. Tracy had how much in that second game? Like in the first quarter, he had like 11 for 100 something in the first quarter or first half. Like, this is ridiculous. It was so frustrating watching this team like just give up 1,000 yards a game. Obviously exaggerating, but like giving up so many yards a game, and it felt like a death by 1,000 paper cuts. So like I think really the run game and obviously that front 7 specifically, I would test it off rip because this is a new group, and I told you it's a new team. Like they got better, but on paper it's one thing. But this team is so freaking new. Like you still got to figure out if they're going to be coming out the gate firing on all cylinders, and I don't know that yet. As much as I love the team, I don't know that yet. And I think y'all know where y'all strengths lie. But if y'all can get a ground game going, I'm gonna help Russell Wilson out.
That's exactly that's exactly what I expect the Giants to do. Lean on the ground game and then work the play action and try to attack outside the numbers with Malik Neighbors. That's going to be I think the approach of Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka.
Now, healthy Marshawn Lattimore can make that a little bit more difficult. Where's he at, Marshawn Lattimore?
I'm about to say, yeah. I mean, healthy Marshawn will help it out, but I ain't gonna lie. I told people in the offseason, I gave him no credit for him being hurt. Like, because you went out there. I mean, he was hurt. I want to make that clear to the people that's listening. But like, come on, bro. Like, you was talking big trash. I don't know if I could. You can talk trash. You talking trash to everybody like that you going up against, and you getting cooked in the meantime. Like you getting cooked, bro. Like you almost got kicked out of the Eagles game in the championship game because AJ. I think AJ caught the 2-point conversion, if not the touchdown. I'm like, bro, like all of these things. I get it. Like if you're hurt, that's one thing, but don't take yourself out of the game with all this talking. Like I personally, this is me personally. I don't like people who talk and like you're in the midst of getting cooked. Like that's just not a good look for me. Like buckle up and get back in your game, because if you take yourself out of the game, that's a problem. So for me, I think Marshawn, to answer again, he's fully healthy. He feels more explosive. He feels like he's back where he wants to be from a health standpoint. And he's expressed that throughout the entire offseason. He has not gotten hurt. He's not gotten nicked up, nothing like that. So we are getting a full Marshawn on week 1. Y'all will see full healthy Marshawn on week 1. But like I said, I ain't cutting that man no slack, and I hope he shows up. But like last year, bro, that was just a terrible first impression for me. I ain't gonna lie to you. He should have been out there if he was so hurt. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's probably, I mean, look, that's an interesting inside look at what was going on there in that cornerback room. Obviously, we have a lot of respect on this podcast for Sanders still. He was a player I liked a ton coming out of Michigan. And that secondary is much improved. Their pass defense is much improved. Dan Quinn is somebody who Nick has a lot of respect for from the film watching. And just an issue. I mean, you could see it, right? Look at the Cowboys defense with and without him last season. All right, Jamal, we already went past the time you allotted. We really appreciate it. We know you got to get back to work. We don't want to get you in any kind of trouble over there. Really appreciate you taking the time today. You can find his work on the Trap or Dive podcast and over at Hogs Haven. So before you go, you do have to do one thing that we always make every guest do. We need a prediction and a final score for this game.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, appreciate y'all once again. Nick, you know you can hit me up anytime. And we can chop it up for sure. Dan, nice meeting you. Nice
Very
talking
nice
to you.
well.
I have the Commanders winning 24-17. I think it's a close game. I think the number's at 6.5. So
6.5.
in that sense, yeah, the Giants do cover. But I
No,
think
they wouldn't
Washington.
cover. They wouldn't cover.
No, oh shoot, what did I say? Oh,
17.
Oh Lord, hey, edit that out.
Right, it's a long day.
It's like
Friday. It's
but
Thursday. It feels like Friday.
24-17. Washington wins. I just think the home opener is probably something that goes in Washington's favor with the
Yeah.
rejuvenated fan base and everything. So we'll see.
Totally get it. Jamal, thank you again for taking the time. Great talking with you. Great chopping it up, talking ball. And we'll talk to you soon, hopefully.
Yes, sir.
I'll see you later, Jamal. Be well, bro.
Yes, sir. See you, Nick.
All right, Nick. That was awesome having Jamal on. We got to talk and our thoughts on the matchup and give our final predictions as well. So the first thing I did want to bring up with you, Nick, was some stats that were provided by my co-host of the Beyond the Box Score podcast. For anyone listening who wants an in-depth film and data-based fantasy podcast, check out Beyond the Box Score, CBS
Better
Sports.
use that podcast to promote this show, baby.
I'll use both. I promote our show on that podcast as well.
I love it.
It's the double promotion. You think I'm not promoting stuff for free? I'm not. I got shameless with my plugs. All right. But he said, chasing points versus Washington in week 1 feels like the perfect spot for Russell Wilson's and Malik Neighbors connection to get rolling fast. So he's predicting a big start for the Wilson Neighbors connection. He says Washington's defense blitzed at the 8th highest rate in 2024 under Dan Quinn, but allowed the league's highest explosive pass rate when blitzing. The Commanders ranked 30th in pressure rate on blitzes. I don't personally feel like they've done enough to improve their pass rush. That's my take. He says a healthy Marshawn Lattimore and rookie Trey Amos may make it a tougher task, but I wouldn't worry about that much in relation to Malik Neighbors. I kind of agree with him there too. He said when blitzed in 2024, Russell Wilson was aggressive in pushing the ball deep. George Pickens had an 18% target per route rate when Russ was not blitzed, which nearly doubled the 32% when blitzed. Russ basically said, if you're blitzing me, I'm going to my number one target. And when he was not when he was blitzed and not pressured. So this goes to what Jacob was saying. Look, Commanders blitzed a lot, but they were 30th in pressure rate despite blitzing on all those blitzes. And in this scenario, when Russ is blitzed and not pressured, he fed his wide receiver 1, George Pickens, a 35% target per route rate, run rate, which was insane, by the way, Nick. Both of Neighbors' season highs in targets, 18, and air yards, 208, came in this matchup last year against Washington. He says it could be a wild week 1 output for Russ, the Moonballs, and Malik Neighbors. Do you agree?
I mean, I like those numbers. I think if Dan Quinn wants to bring the pressure and blitz, which they may have to, if you look at this depth chart, then yes, I do agree. But again, like this is going to be the chess match between Dan Quinn, Joe Witt, their defensive coordinator, and what the Giants are doing offensively with Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka. I think if you're going to dial up the blitz, if they can't like slow down the quick passing attack and they want to just try to get after Russell Wilson, then yes, I can see that, especially when they run these middle of the field closed and these cover 1 concepts, and whether that's horizontally or vertically, I can see that. And yes, it's Malik Neighbors. He's a top receiver in the National Football League. I think he is going to get his, and they're probably going to try to scheme him up against Trey Amos. He's a cornerback that I did like going through the college football process, but this is his first game and he has a tough matchup.
I think Neighbors can straight up beat any of these corners. And easy. I think that'll be the case.
And I say easy in the sense of he is a superior talent to them, but I also think Dan Quinn is wise enough to not allow a lot of these younger corners on an island. Even Latimer, he might not.
I'm not as sure as you about that, just based on those numbers that Jacob brought up. I think he's just I think his nature is to just blitz.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but with the blitz, he will be on the island. I want to say, but their objective is to get home to Russell Wilson before Russell Wilson allows that football to get out. Yep. But in a more conservative approach, if we're operating in that realm, then I think there's going to be rolled coverage over the top whenever the Giants do attempt to get Malik Neighbors in these one-on-one situations with, let's say, Trey Amos. But regardless of it, I agree with you. And I think that Malik Neighbors is a player who can win any of these matchups if he is in a one-on-one situation.
And I want to see Nick in some of these spots where he's not in the one-on-one. Like, let's say Washington does blitz, but they rotate a safety over the top and play that kind of shell coverage over Neighbors. I want Russ to find Slayton. I want Russ to find the backside and really attack those one-on-ones. I hope he's aggressive, Russ, in this game. I know no one expects him to be. I mean, we both expect a game plan, which you kind of outlined, Nick, in our show with Jamal. A lot of run game, a lot of heavier personnel, some play action shots. How about play the blitz, understand what Dan Quinn's trying to do, and attack early and be aggressive early? I'm up for that. Like, I know it may not seem like the safest bet, but if they're going to blitz like that and they're not getting pressure when they blitz, it could be a big game for us.
100%. A lot of this is also contingent on what the Giants are going to do defensively. Like if they take a big lead and the Giants defense can't stop the run, then the Giants are going to be a little bit more desperate. I think, again, to go back to what we were talking about with Maul, The Giants want to lean on the run and work the play action, but a lot of
Yeah.
this is contingent on what's going on the other side of the football. That's why
Right.
it's a chess match throughout the entire game, as we always say. I can see Dan Quinn tried to dictate early with the blitz to overwhelm the Giants offense. But if that doesn't work initially and they're driving down the field, even if it only results in the field goals, I could see a more conservative approach. And that's what I'm talking about when I say Malik Neighbors not being on an island with one of those cornerbacks, or one of those cornerbacks not just being on an island, but when the blitz does come, then yes, he's going to be on that island. And that's where Russell Wilson must attack and must smell blood, get a shark in the water, and just bomb it deep and allow Malik Neighbors to make a play, because Malik Neighbors can climb the proverbial ladder and make a play over any of these cornerbacks. You just got to give that opportunity, give that chance to Malik Neighbors to be successful in that type of environment.
And he can just beat them in man coverage over and over and over again. And that's a reality of the NFL. Outside of like Patrick Surtain, it's an impossible task for these corners in one-on-one man to defend a player like Malik Neighbors. It's set up for the offense to win in general. And now you have a massive talent like Neighbors. Now, with that said, I am curious if what you said will happen, though, if Dan Quinn will try to dictate with the blitz early. And instead of the numbers we had from last year, Nick, where, as Jacob brought up, he was only 30th in success rate in pressures, despite being the blitz heaviest team. He actually gets there because Andrew Thomas, who practiced yesterday on Wednesday, did not practice today on Thursday. Now, Brian Dable says it's all part of the plan. What's the plan? I don't know. He hasn't given us that plan. The plan might be for him not to play this week, straight up. It might be the whole time they've planned for him to just start practicing a little bit this week, a little bit more next week, and then maybe playing week 3 or something. Point being, if James Hudson is out there, dude, James Hudson has zero evidence of having any good regular season tape, despite being okay in our preseason. He has evidence of a massive amount of penalties that could be absolute drive killers for us, holdings, false starts, whatever it may be. And then also, does it alter our game plan, right? Like, do we feel comfortable putting James Hudson on an island like we do with Andrew Thomas? I don't know, but I know in the past we haven't, when we have these crappy tackles out there, and then it just kind of screws up the whole offense because too many guys are on the line of scrimmage trying to help in the pass game, and we can't have them out running routes like we need them to.
Yeah, it's a problem, and I don't envision Andrew Thomas playing if he didn't practice on Thursday. I would be shocked at that point. Yeah, I mean, it's part of the plan.
I play.
Like, he didn't practice at all, no limited.
Today was nothing, but according to Dable, is part of the plan. I just don't know what is the plan for him to play week 1.
Look, I have no inside information, obviously, but if he didn't practice today, it's not a good sign, right?
Yeah.
And at the plan, we don't know.
How can it be? You're right.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not optimistic that he'll play, and that does affect what I think can happen against the Washington Commanders. It's an interesting game, and you could really dictate the season like you did in 2022. Just get off to a hot start and win a divisional road game. Like, that would be massive for the Giants, but this is a tough task.
So the only thing I will say, Nick, is in regards to that, because I do believe it will basically determine the game, as crazy as that sounds. Dable did say Andrew Thomas looked good yesterday in practice. I don't know what that means, though, but he did say that. So I don't think he's going to go out and be like, yeah, you look like shit, like. No, not like shit, but he could have just been like, you did what he did, like, his usual crap. But I don't know. It's probably looking into it too much. Okay, I'm going to operate now under the assumption that Andrew Thomas is not playing, and that will unfortunately impact my prediction at the end of the show. I hate to admit it, but it just will. Now, I do shout out one of our listeners, Ricky. I think it was Ricky, who said, not that Ricky, not Scoops Ricky, another Ricky, who said he doesn't put as much weight on the Andrew Thomas splits now. So for those who don't know what I'm referencing, the splits for the Giants when Andrew Thomas has been on the field versus Andrew Thomas has not been on the field over the last 6 years, or however many years since he was drafted, 2020, are ridiculous. It's basically the Giants are the worst team in the NFL, can't move the ball, can't score at all without Thomas, and they're can sometimes win or sometimes produce with Thomas, but it's dire without Thomas. Now, his point is he thinks that those splits are more, they're telling us more about the quarterback. And he believes that Daniel Jones specifically was somebody who just couldn't afford to not have an Andrew Thomas out there. He's too panicky. He needs that blind side safety. He needs to feel comfortable there. Hopefully Russ is less of that, but Russ took a lot of sacks last year, man. So I don't really feel all that confident that Russ is that much of an upgrade in that regard over Jones. Still an upgrade, but maybe not as much as Ricky's saying.
Yeah, I wish I had access to Washington's defensive usage through some of these
Sure.
advanced sites. I don't have that, but I what I remember from Dallas and from the early parts of last season was it was a lot of man coverage. And if we get a lot of man
Yes.
coverage, you're going to see a lot of those condensed formations to help James Hudson while also having those rub routes, those quick routes. Wandale Robinson off the line of scrimmage to the flat underneath the Theo Johnson vertical release to pick Wandale Robinson's defender. You're going to see a lot of those quick hitters to slow down a pass rush or a blitz from Washington, even though their pass rush isn't as feared as the New York Giants or respected as the New York Giants. You need to protect James Hudson. And also, what is something that we've seen a lot through this preseason? Successful screens. So if Dan Quinn wants to try to employ a lot of these pressure packages, you can run those screens. And they've been successful in the preseason. Let's see if it can actually work now. And it's not like Washington has an uber athletic or fast second level, specifically when you're talking about the linebackers. You know, Frankie Louvu, you're never going to hear a bad word come out of my mouth about Frankie Louvu, one of the most underrated players in the National Football League. But you still have Bobby Wagner, who's older than us out there starting.
Yeah, good point. And you know what? I am nervous about James Hudson out there. I'll be honest. Very, very nervous. But I do like that this is not a zone heavy team. I think if we played a zone heavy, a good Vic Fangio, like zone heavy team, we're just absolutely effed out there, to be quite frank. I don't think Russ is going to fit it in between the windows we need him to. I don't think we'll run the ball at all.
We got Kafka back. We got Kafka back calling plays. And when Kafka's back calling plays, the reason why I bring that up is you see so many post wheels, bro. You see so many post wheels, and we saw them connect on the post wheel on that deep Bo Collins play. That's why the safety, Andre Sisco, was out of position, as we brought up on the All 22 show after reviewing the New York Jets podcast, right? Like I'm telling you, man, like those deep concepts, those post wheel, like that's a way you can take advantage of deep zone cover 4 type of defenses. And I can see that happening again. Remember, Jones never threw the post wheel. It was always on the backside, and then the front side of the play was the stick, and there was a bunch of different type of concepts that they ran, quick game concepts. Now with Russ, I can see Russ diagnosing that and actually attacking the post wheel side.
That's good. Good to know for some future matchups coming up. For this specific matchup, what I was trying to say is, and I like that point, by the way, a lot. And we'll see if hopefully, Russ is aggressive enough and on time enough to complete those. And that we'll see how that goes. And obviously ball placement has to be good. But in this matchup, like I am kind of happy it's going to be a blitz heavy team because I think it negates Hudson to some extent because of exactly what you said. We could see a very, very screen heavy game script from Mike Kafka, who, by the way, has been confirmed today by Brian Dable to be the play caller for the 2025 season, which I am strongly, strongly in favor of personally. So I would expect a lot of screens, like you said, a lot of those rub routes to beat man. I think a lot will go to Neighbors, but maybe Wandale as well. We'll see. I hope most go to Neighbors personally speaking. And maybe that can be enough to negate the Hudson impact. I hope so, Nick, because I'll say this. The Giants certainly will need it. We'll get to this next, the Giants defense versus the Redskins or the Commanders offense. But in the last 3 season openers again under Brian Dable, or in all 3 season openers, this is according to Bob Papa, the Giants have not scored a first half offensive touchdown, dude. We've been outscored 53-3 the last 3 years in home openers. It's just it's almost unfathomable to be that out of it. It's just a gut punch for us as fans. Just an absolute boom right in the gut. Like we're out of the game already. It's over. And we don't even have a chance to compete. Yeah, and it's been we won't get into a lot of the reason why that's happened in our opinion, but we don't have to again. But like we need something. We need to beat the blitz, beat the man, use the screens, whatever it may be, get points on the scoreboard.
So I'll say this. I don't remember a ton of blitzing in week 2 against the Commanders, like them blitzing the New York Giants.
I thought week 2 they blitzed more than the second matchup. I may be wrong because I thought I just remember so many routes with Neighbors.
It had to be like a sub 30%. I don't have the numbers in front. It had to be like a sub 30%. Now 30%, that's considerable, but like there are teams that blitz like 46% of the time. Sometimes. Now that's very high. I mean, that's on the very high side of the blitz, and it also is like situationally. Like I don't remember Daniel Jones being necessarily overwhelmed, right? Like the Giants' offense, they move the football. And this is where it's interesting.
Well, I think that might speak to, by the way, I'm sorry to cut you off, but that may speak to what Gibbs' stat says. Like they did blitz, they just didn't get pressure when they blitzed.
Yeah. And the Giants were picking it up is what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah. So with week 2 specifically, like the Giants defense, I wanted to say, and the Giants offense, they were moving the ball, but they didn't have a field goal kicker to kick, and they were inefficient in the red zone. But like with the Giants defense, like I don't like what they were doing between the 20s, but once
I
they
know.
got to the 20s,
They shut him down. Yeah.
they shut them down. They held
Right.
them to 7 field goals,
Yeah.
which
Right.
was like, wow, okay. Like
That was
they couldn't
without
do.
Carter.
Yeah, I was without Carter. That was with second game
Dabo,
in it,
Holland.
second game in a defense. Like there's a lot there, and obviously it was Jaden Daniels' second professional game, so you have to factor that in as well. But this is a very like I'm very excited about this matchup. I'm very interested in this matchup. The Andrew Thomas news is it's very disconcerting. I don't feel great about that, but
No.
I can be talked into either direction here easily.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And let's flip it now to the other side of the ball here, and let's talk about the Giants' defense against the Commanders' offense. I'll put my hand up right now, Nick, and say my biggest concern on defense is the run defense for the Giants in this
100%,
specific matchup.
100%.
Now that sounds crazy with Jaden Daniels at quarterback and guys like Bill Krosky-Moret and Chris Rodriguez at running back, but ultimately speaking, it's a scheme thing. Like, I don't really worry about the running backs who are running behind Washington's offensive line. I worry about the film that we've watched where he's run double counter and he's running all these concepts, clickings, right, dating back to his time with the Cardinals and his time last year with Washington, that's fooling the defense or catching him off guard or creating these massive lanes, these cutback runs for Rodriguez and Moret to just break off and rip into the defense. I think they're going to put a ton of stress on our second level. And that's not an area I feel all that comfortable with right now. They're going to run away from Dex the entire game would be just based on the scheme they've put out there. So that's where my number one concern starts. Our run defense. Can we find a way to stop those outside runs?
Yeah, I remember a lot of power. There's some counter, a lot of stuff out of shotgun. And I think Maul's point about Deebo Samuel, that's something we really need to pay attention to. You're going to see Deebo aligned in the backfield with Jaden Daniels and at a shotgun. And you're going to see maybe one of the other running backs split. They're going to do a lot of creative things to try to confuse the Giants, try to create matchups. And I mean, whenever the Giants get caught out there in nickel, if they put Deebo in the backfield, that's going to isolate Bobby Okereke or Micah McFadden in a situation where they might have to cover him in man coverage if it's an extended period of time. Now, the thing is, do you really have an extended period of time against the Giants pass rush to allow a play like that, especially vertically or intermediately? True. To really flourish? I don't know, because I think by that point, Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, or Dexter Lawrence would get home.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I feel like if the Giants want to win this game, they should have a specific game plan for the Commanders, not just run what they've been running or what they expect to run in season. Specifically, in my mind at least, I'd like to see Dexter Lawrence lined up over the center for the vast majority of this game and just overwhelm them at the point of attack, because they have a backup right guard and Cosme's not going to make it back for this game. And they have a backup, and not a backup. They have a center who's their center right now? I'm forgetting his name.
Tyler Biadasz.
It's Biadasz, right? Not a good center, a pretty bad center. I know he was okay last year after signing with them, but he is not a good center. He's not a big center by any means. Like, he's somebody who Dexter Lawrence could just absolutely dominate for a full game if he's lined up over him on a consistent basis.
And the Brendan Coleman point is interesting too, because this was the tackles kicking inside. This is his first time playing inside. It's a totally different animal, and you're going to be going up against Dexter Lawrence. Like, that's something to exploit for sure.
Yeah.
That's where the Giants win, obviously, right? We've talked about it forever.
Right.
The Giants are going to win with the defensive pressure and how they can manipulate the offensive protection of a talented offensive line. Like, I think they're talented. You have the left tackle on lockdown. Laramie Tunsil's the top 3 left tackle in the league. We like Josh Connerly Jr. He's top 5, whatever. He's good. Josh Connerly Jr.
Bad year, but he is good.
Hey, he's a good football player. Josh Connerly Jr. is another good football player, but he's a rookie. Brandon Coleman, he's solid. He's an adequate tackle, replacement level tackle, but now he's kicked inside. Tyler Biadasz, replacement level center, probably akin to like a John Michael Schmitz, maybe a little bit better, unfortunately.
Maybe a little worse. Oh, you think better? Damn. That's sad for Schmitz.
It is. Trust me. I know. I like Schmitz coming out, and he's just, I watch the tape. I'm not disappointed. Like, I'm not like, oh, you're terrible, but it's just like, we need more from you.
This will scar me for life, Nick. I almost never want to draft a center early again after this. It's just, I didn't want it in the first place. And now
two drafts earlier, though, we would have been fine if they did that.
We would have got Creed Humphrey. Yeah.
So it's like, pick
get the right guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Scout it better. Yeah. Scout it better.
Pick the right player.
An old center who's not really overwhelming at the point of attack at all against Big Ten guys, but go on.
Yeah, and then there's, I think, Andrew Wiley is our other guard who was a former tackle for the
Right.
Kansas
It
City
could be an
Chiefs. They got
issue
Nick
for them.
Allegretti as another guy who's a former Kansas City Chief. So the Giants can win up front. They can dictate up front. But again, we know what Cliff is going to do. He's going to be everything quick. They're probably going to try to get to the outsides away from Dexter Lawrence. A lot of mesh point, hold the backside defender, because you have Brian Burns, the backside defender, if you're running away from Burns. And that is one hell of a backside defender to try to outrun to the front side. But when you have Jaden Daniels, you need to respect that. You need to contain that. So that eliminates a player from the box for the New York Giants. So we're going to see a lot of that to the outside. The Giants need to be efficient tacklers. They need to set those edges. They need to come downhill. It's going to be a lot on Javon Holland. It's going to be a lot on Tyler Nubin to come downhill and fit and fill physically. Drew Phillips is another one, especially since the Giants are probably going to be in nickel often. I could see the Giants matching nickel. It gets interesting. If they come out with two tight ends, it's going to be Zach Ertz and Johnny Bates. Johnny Bates is a good blocking tight end. Do the Giants trust their nickel package against that?
I think so. I hope so. We don't have it. I mean, what else are we going to do? We can't really throw an extra linebacker on.
What is the Giants nickel pack? Like, I think the Giants nickel package can have a bunch of different packages within that package, a bunch of meta packages, right? Like where it's like Abdul Carter instead of Micah McFadden, right? Where you put Dane Belton in there.
Yes.
Like that's what I mean when I'm saying like their true nickel of just Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden. That's one thing. Like I can see them trusting that against 12. But will they be crazy enough? I don't even think crazy is the right word. Would they be, aggressive enough to put Abdul? Do they trust Abdul to be that second linebacker to get Kayvon and Brian Burns on? You know what I mean? And then they'll come up with some cool.
Depends how aggressive I think they want the game plan to be, because he could. The way I see it, Nick, is if they do trust him in that role, him and Burns are going to be basically having to make backside defender, the backside pursuit stops in the run game all game, and we're going to be relying on that because they're going to be running away from Dex the whole game. And that's something that I think could potentially derail what they want to do in the run game, to be honest. Like, I'd rather be aggressive in the run game than let it come at us with these linebackers that we have at the second level. Like, I don't feel like we're always the most gap sound defense at the second and third level.
And it's also difficult too. These are different gaps that we're dealing with, as we've talked about, than Wink Martindale's defense with Shane Bowen.
Even at the edge, do you feel confident we're setting an edge with our guys that we have? Not particularly.
Not particularly. No, I think Burns does an above adequate job. I think he's a solid edge setter. I think he gets more shit than he deserves when it comes to
especially for his frame.
Yeah, and dude, he's still like big. I talked about this on Twitter recently. It's like people are like, yeah, he's a skinny finesse, and it's like I understand why people think that, but he's also 6'5", like 255 pounds. Like he's lean, but he's well put together. And with Kayvon, I think Kayvon can set the edge.
Wrong. Yeah, they can set the edge. I don't think they're just, to me, neither of them have the frame to be consistently great dominant edge setters. So I think we really win in the run game, to me, game plan wise, by backside pursuit and just having Carter and Burns absolutely destroy them in the run game by just shooting gaps. And we'll see. It's aggressive. It could kill us at the same time, lead to some big plays, but I just kind of feel like it's the only way. I also feel like my thought on this game, Nick, is I'm not at all worried about our secondary that everyone's worried about. I just personally don't worry about the matchups at receiver that they have, specifically for what that would mean for our corners. Even Terry, I think we can do an okay job against Terry. We have in the past. I'm more worried about their scheme and what they do offensively, just negating our edge rush completely.
And how creative can Shane Bowen be against Jaden Daniels too? That's like another thing that I worry about, especially if they're using that horizontal attack. Like if you're going to blitz and pressure Jaden's smart enough to see that coming. Jaden's smart enough to exploit that. And if you miss with the blitz and Jaden Daniels steps up in a way, he's freaking gone.
I don't think he's going to blitz
man coverage on the back end if you don't keep a quarterback spy. And everyone's like, yeah, well, you just spy him. It's like, yeah, we said that last year and Jaden still beat us with his legs, right? And who are you using to spy him? I don't really trust Mike McFadden to spy him that much. You know what I mean? So there's a lot that goes into this. And again, it's one of the reasons why this sport is so beautiful and so amazing, is because every play, every decision, drive to drive, it matters. And then it's taken into account by your opponent, and they try to exploit that decision. And it's just going to be on Shane Bowen to really be dialed in on how he employs this just beautiful pass rush that the New York Giants have, this effective pass rush, this aggressive pass rush. Do you only send 4? How many stunts are you willing to run against this protection package? How are you going to align Dexter Lawrence? There's so many ways that the Giants can successfully attack Washington, but Washington has so many ways to successfully attack the Giants, and that's the chess match, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's beautiful and successful the way you described the pass rush. I'm not so sure it will be that right away in week 1. I think they're going to do a lot of things. It's potential. I know. I just think they're going to do a lot of different things to negate what the Giants have, specifically in the edge game. We'll see what happens there. I'm hopeful that I'm wrong there, and we're just going to be able to get that edge pressure on Jaden to mess things up. But man, last year we weren't really able to do much, I thought, defensively based on the game plan they use. And I don't really see why they wouldn't use that game plan again, which won't stress our secondary, by the way. It's just going to stress everything you talked about earlier and what we've mentioned. We need to rally. We need to tackle. Our secondary has to be really, really sound in their gaps in the run game and then in the passing game, rallying to the ball and tackling. We're going to need all of that from the second and third level, in my opinion, to win this matchup, in addition to what I think is big plays on run stops in the backfield from Carter and from Burns specifically. That's how I see us winning. And we'll see if it will, on defensively at least, we'll see if it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And dude, I just wish Dable, and it's hard to really like look in on the numbers, right? Because the Giants have been so bad personnel wise, but like Dable hasn't had success against Dan Quinn's defenses. Like Washington, Dallas, like it's not like Dable has had a lot of success.
Yeah, so it's hard to judge to me with that quarterback.
Of course. I get it, but it's still something.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to. Do we have any sample size of like Bills Dable against those defenses?
I think so.
I'd love to see that. And he struggled against those. Okay, well then that.
I mean, according to this article, it said 1-8, but I don't know. I don't know how accurate that is, and I don't want to quote that. But I just did.
No, but that would be real to me. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I personally.
It's not like the Bills played the NFC teams too often when he was with Seattle, getting back to a while ago, and then obviously Atlanta.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it's hard for me to judge the numbers with what we had at the situation, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think ultimately the good news is Kafka is going to design the offense against this team. I think
it's still Brian Dable's offense,
but Kafka's going to he's going to sequence the play calling, which to me is ultimately very important because I think he gives us a much better edge than Dable, quite frankly. All right, let's get to some final predictions. You can go first.
Yeah, so final prediction. Unfortunately, I'm gonna go Washington 24 to I don't want to do the same as Maul, but I might, man, 24-17 over the Giants.
It's funny. I see Washington scoring a similar amount of points that you see them scoring here. I do think the Giants red zone defense will be pretty successful in this one. So I'm gonna go Washington 23. Giants 16, driving to try to score with an actual opportunity, but they get stopped on a fourth down.
I get it, man.
Somewhere. Yeah.
If Andrew Thomas was playing, I
would have picked the Giants to win if Andrew Thomas was playing. This prediction is operating under the assumption that, and I did predict the Giants to win this, by the way, yesterday in our record prediction show. So now I guess I have to amend that from 8-9 to 7-10. But at that time, I actually thought Andrew Thomas would play. You've kind of convinced me you won't. Usually players who don't practice Thursday don't play.
I mean, it could be a weird situation, and it's really him not practicing today coupled with his comments earlier this week. It's just, it doesn't look positive. I'll tell you that much.
It's really disappointing, to say the least, that this is the situation.
But with that said, even though I'm picking Washington, like there's still obviously like a way where the Giants win this football game. I'm not going into this bleak. I'm going to this very excited, hoping that the New York Giants can live up to the expectations that we've cultivated for them throughout this offseason and rightfully cultivated to some degree, right? It's not like we have delusions of grandeur about the Giants, but the Giants are an exciting team. They have a pass rush. They have a new quarterback. I could see the Giants winning this football game easily, but if I have to pick with everything considered, all the circumstances, all the variables, I'm going to go with Jaden Daniels in Washington.
Same, unfortunately. And that's assuming Thomas doesn't play. I would have picked the Giants to upset. And we'll see. Maybe the Giants throw us a curveball, Nick, which I know a lot of fans are hoping and asking for, which is either one, Illuminor at left tackle, or two, Marcus Bowe at right tackle, or two, Marcus Bowe just over James Hudson, which I don't think they'll do, but you never know. And I know a lot of pretty much every fan I've talked to would rather have Bowe out there than Hudson.
I'm looking at this too, man. I'm like, what if Mike, like, again, you brought this up on yesterday's show, the Mike Kafka effect. What if Mike Kafka just has stuff in his bag for this quarterback, right?
Maybe.
Like,
it's just will Hudson ruin all that? That's like what I'm worried. I'm scarred, man. I have like PTSD. I've seen our tackles ruin our lives. I mean, our chances of scoring and moving the ball on such a consistent basis over my life watching this team.
I'd take Hudson 10 times out of 10 over Evan Neal, and we went into season.
Sure, but like that's just like unplayably bad. Yeah, I mean,
I know. Again, that's my point though. Is yes, sure. And I would take Russell Wilson over Daniel Jones 10 times out
Obvious.
of
That
10.
goes
So
without
it's just
saying.
like, and then you have Malik Neighbors, so that there are reasons to
Yeah.
like, I'm almost talking myself into going back to the Giants, but again, it's like Jane Daniels and really, I am scared. I am scared about the run defense.
Yeah, the run
I am
defense
scared.
scares me, and I just wish Thomas was playing. But it is what it is. I guess he's most likely not going to play this first week, and who knows when he'll play. In my opinion, if that's not the case,
Yeah.
if he's not playing this week, that sucks. But yeah, that's it. That's our preview of the Giants Commanders Week 1. Fortunately, had to change my prediction to a loss. I don't trust James Hudson out there. I don't even know if he's better than Chris Hubbard to me. I really don't. I liked Hubbard in the run game at least. I don't know what Hudson will give them in a real regular season game. I hope what they expect. They have high expectations. They paid him a lot, and clearly, in my opinion, Nick, they were probably had more inside information than we did about how slow this Thomas recovery could be. So I think when they paid Hudson, they probably had in mind this dude might have to start some games for us this year, which is scary to me based on what we've seen on tape from him with Cleveland. But who knows? Maybe it's a new era for him and he fits well. But thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your weekend. Please hit the like button. Please comment. Talk to you soon.